Congratulations, true crime addicts. We've survived another week. It is Friday, January 19th, 2024. This week, a German woman is on trial for killing her own doppelganger. 3 men freeze to death after a football game. And Rex Heuermann has been charged with a 4th murder. One more and he gets a free salad bar at the Sizzler. All this and more. Stay tuned.
Yes, super excited. We are all pumped to have James Renner.
James Renner on.
That James Renner has zeroed in on.
James Renner once again drops a bombshell.
Investigative journalist, reporter, James Renner, who's been on the podcast, longtime friend of mine.
And welcome back to True Crime This Week with me, James Renner. There's the James Renner bell, apparently. Big news. Big news. This Tuesday, January 23rd, is the premiere of my new podcast. It's another weekly podcast coming at you on Tuesdays. Look, I'm still going to stick around for True Crime This Week on Fridays. It's my bread and butter. But on Tuesdays, you're going to get Synth Sleuths. That's the name of the new podcast. It is the first true crime podcast co-hosted by an AI. That's right, an AI. Her name's Sky. You're going to love her. And we discuss the nature of consciousness, and then we delve into some of the world's most confounding unsolved mysteries. So I can't wait to share it with you. Jump on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts and subscribe or follow. Be the first to hear this. So Tuesday, January 23rd. As always, I'd like to thank Walter for manning the camera. Walter's just back from Sarah Snook's Emmys party. I hear he had a pretty good time. Hey, we got some top stories. We got some true crime news for you. Let's go. Strange story out of Canada this week. It began with the discovery of a woman's body found in a river near Pakenham, Ontario. That's in Ontario. It's a province. On November 14th, police would identify this woman as 50-year-old Rose Kerwin, who lived about 16 miles away, according to the CBC. Her death seemed suspicious from the start. The day after Kerwin's body was found, police were called again, this time about a sexual assault that occurred nearby. At first, these two incidents seemed unconnected, but as detectives with the Ontario Provincial Police began to investigate, as they did, they discovered that the assault and Kerwin's death were connected to a couple who lived nearby. And on December 19th, they arrested 56-year-old Marcel Lappenzie is his name, and 23-year-old Samantha Osborne. And they were charged with first-degree murder, sexual assault, and forcible confinement. But it wasn't until this week that the news leaked out about this arrest. And that's when police appealed to the media out of concern that there could be more victims. Apparently, this couple were actively using online aliases to meet up with these women, and they were using names like Max Power and Sammy with an I. They were using these fake profiles to meet these women, allegedly. Police are searching for Kerwin's vehicle as well, described as a blue 2013 Mazda GX sedan with Ontario license plate CSXW383. So this is kind of, there's a bigger story here that we don't know yet. And it will likely come out at trial, if not before, but mark this one, bookmark it. We're going to hear more about this in the weeks to come. Suspected Long Island serial killer Rex Heuermann was charged this week with a 4th murder, according to the New York Times. On Tuesday, prosecutors filed charges against Heuermann for the murder of 25-year-old Maureen Brainerd Barnes. She's from Norwich, Connecticut. Prosecutors say that Heuermann made calls and sent texts to Brainerd Barnes just before she disappeared in 2007. She was the last of the Gilgo Four, as they call them, to be linked with Heuermann. A stray hair found with her remains was traced to Heuermann's wife. Now, likely that's trace DNA. It happens all the time. If she was in a vehicle owned by Heuermann in which his wife also would sometimes be a passenger, we're constantly dropping hairs. His wife's hair falls off, gets on the seat, and then if in fact he's guilty, he has this woman's body in the car, the hair latches onto the body, and that's how it's called transfer DNA. So it doesn't mean the wife's guilty, and the police say she was out of town at the time. Brainerd Barnes was also found bound with a belt that had a buckle with the initials WH, which they say belonged to Heuermann's father. The Tuesday filings also revealed more evidence police have collected from Heuermann's home, which include electronic devices that he used to search online for his victims and their family, they say. The computers also had a large collection of bondage and torture porn. Detectives are now focusing their attention on 6 other bodies found in the same area where these 4 women were discovered. Look, I'm no legal expert here, but I'd say none of this looks good for Rex Heuermann. That's just me. Police in Kansas City, Missouri are trying to figure out how 3 men ended up dead after gathering at a friend's house to watch the Chiefs play the Chargers on January 7th. This according to Inside Edition. 38-year-old Ricky Johnson, 37-year-old David Harrington, and 36-year-old Clayton McGeeney went to a buddy's house to watch the game on Sunday but never returned to their houses, and they stopped answering their phones. Their significant others were texting and calling, like, where are you at? No response. Finally, on Tuesday, McGeeney's fiancée went to the home of their friend and found the men's cars still parked outside. And when nobody answered, she broke into the house searching for them. She got to the back porch where she discovered a body under snow. She called the police, and when they arrived, they found 2 more bodies in the backyard. All of the men appeared to have been frozen to death. Anybody else watching the new season of True Detective? This kind of rings there's some similarities there to the pilot of that show. The man who owns that house, though, is still very much alive, but he wasn't responding to calls or texts either, and he had not called the police. Seems sus, as they say, right? But police are saying they're not treating these deaths as homicides. So this is a very weird and developing story that we're likely to hear more details about in the coming weeks. It raises many frustrating questions, like what happened to these men, right? Why did they freeze to death so close to their cars? And there's a fence in the backyard, but not tall enough that they couldn't have climbed over. And why is the homeowner not talking to the families? What really happened during that game? There's an interesting story in the center of this, I guarantee it. So those are the top stories of this week. I will be back in 2 and 2 with some cold case updates and some weird news and pop culture. You're not going to want to miss this. I'll be back very shortly.
Please hang up and try again.
Welcome back to After MASH, starring Barbara Townsend. Here are your cold case updates. Buckle up. Reuters reports that Josef Fritzl will soon be eligible for parole. And that should come as kind of a surprise if you remember who Fritzl is. Fritzl's that Austrian, not Australian. He's the Austrian salesman who secretly constructed a room in the basement of his house and then locked his daughter Elizabeth inside when she was 18 years old. He kept his daughter there for 24 years, told his wife she'd run away, and during his daughter's imprisonment, he repeatedly abused her and fathered 7 children with her. 3 of the children lived with her in the basement. 3 more were raised by Fritzl and his wife. Now, his wife thought their daughter, like he said, had run off, and he was able to convince her that Elizabeth had left the children behind and joined a cult. A 7th child died shortly after birth, and Fritzl incinerated the remains. Elizabeth and her children were freed in 2008 after one of her daughters got sick, and she convinced Fritzl to take the daughter to the hospital, and then she convinced her father to take her to the hospital as well. The staff there realized something was seriously strange and alerted the police. Once they told Elizabeth she never had to see her father again, she told them everything, and Fritzl was arrested. After his conviction, Fritzl was sent to a facility for the criminally insane, where he's remained ever since, until Tuesday, when police announced he could now be transferred to a prison where he will be eligible to apply for release. Fritzl is now 88 years old and has a new name. His lawyer has already prepared filings for that early release. And if he's released this year, Fritzl's imprisonment will be 6 years shorter than his daughter's. I know that story was awful. I don't really like stories like that. So we need a little eye bleach. So here's a picture of my dog. His name's Brownie, and he enjoys scritches. A German woman goes on trial this week for murdering a woman who looked like her in order to fake her own death. Prosecutors say that this woman, identified as Cherubin K., and her boyfriend searched on Instagram for a doppelganger and found their victim, a woman the same age, with the same general appearance, and she's been identified as Khadija O. They allegedly offered her a free treatment at a nearby beauty salon, but when they picked her up, they allegedly stabbed her 56 times and abandoned her body in the forest, according to the BBC. Police at first thought that the body belonged to Cherubin, which was the plan, after all, but then somebody spotted her at a pizzeria the next day. Prosecutors say that Cherubin's failed marriage was the inspiration for her wanting to leave and start a new life, and killing a lookalike seemed like the easiest solution. In related news, Keira Knightley is hoping that Natalie Portman doesn't get any crazy ideas. A Texas teacher who's been on the run since 2015 was captured in Mexico this week and will be extradited to the U.S., according to Inside Edition. What's that? When did Inside Edition become a thing again? Anyways, 34-year-old Iris Ilian Rodriguez disappeared 9 years ago after she was charged with sexually assaulting an 11-year-old girl. At the time, Rodriguez was working as a counselor for a child, adolescent, and parent servicing program in Laredo. And somebody contacted Interpol last month and told them that Rodriguez was hiding out in Jalisco in central Mexico. Police followed the tip and promptly arrested her. She's on her way back to face some justice. Is it, I said Jalisco, like a true hombre, right? Like a gringo. We all know it's Jalisco, right? Okay. Police in Missouri are currently searching for 4 adults and 2 children who have gone missing from a St. Louis suburb, according to NBC News. The adults all have ties to Rashad Jamal, a rapper who decided to create a cult called the University of Cosmic Intelligence. Jamal is currently serving an 18-year prison sentence for, you guessed it, child molestation. The missing are identified as 26-year-old Jeriel German and her 3-year-old son Ashton Mitchell, 29-year-old Naaman Williams, 23-year-old Michaela Thompson, 25-year-old Michaela Wickerson, and her 3-year-old daughter Malaya. Apparently, the University of Cosmic Intelligence no longer offers a degree in common sense. Up top. No? All right. Let's jump over to weird news. A Chicago pickup artist named Nico D'Ambrosio filed a defamation lawsuit last week against 27 women and Facebook, according to Mashable. D'Ambrosio was featured in a Facebook group called Are We Dating the Same Guy?, which is where women post photos and info about bad dates so that other women know which men to avoid in the local dating scene. Apparently, D'Ambrosio took offense when a woman with whom he had a consensual sexual relationship called their night, quote, unremarkable, end quote. Other women recognized him and jumped on to say he was very clingy and, quote, a psycho, end quote. D'Ambrosio is seeking $75,000 in damages and a larger penis. Over to pop culture. Death by Fame premieres on ID Discovery this Tuesday. Here's the write-up. Uncovering the sinister side of fame and celebrity as investigators reveal the shocking true crime stories behind the rise, fall, and murder of some of Hollywood's most promising stars. I took a look at the lineup, though, and I don't recognize anybody on there. Either I'm too old or they're scraping the bottom of the barrel there. So wake me up when they get to Brittany Murphy. And for the recommended book this week, I cannot recommend enough The Amish Wife by Greg Olson. Greg Olson is a friend of mine and mentor. I've known him for many years. Back in the days of the early internet when he was running a website with a message board that got really popular. Just a nice guy. I went to see him at the Massillon Library here in Ohio last night, and we hit up the Alibi bar next door afterwards and shut it down. Hey, not really. We left at like 10. But here's the write-up for The Amish Wife. In 1977, in an Ohio Amish community, pregnant wife and mother Ida Stutzman perished during a barn fire. The coroner's report, natural causes. Ida's husband, Eli, was never considered a suspect, but when he eventually rejected the faith and took his son Danny with him, murder followed. What really happened to Ida? The dubious circumstances of the tragic blaze were willfully ignored, and Eli's shifting narratives disregarded. Could Eli's subsequent cross-country journey of death, including that of his own son, have been prevented if just one person came forward with what they knew about the real Eli Stutzman? The questions haunted Greg Olson and Ida's brother Daniel Gingrich for decades. At Daniel's urging, Olson now returns to Amish country and to Eli's crimes first exposed in Olson's abandoned prayers, one of which has remained a mystery until now. With the help of aging witnesses and shocking long-buried letters, Olson finally uncovers the disturbing truth about Ida's murder and a conspiracy of silence and secrets that kept it hidden for 45 years. This is an interesting book, The Amish Wife, because it's essentially a sequel to Greg Olson's one of his first books that he wrote many years ago. And it's a true crime author at the height of his game, revisiting his early work, and it's for that it's pretty cool. So check it out, The Amish Wife by Greg Olson. And that's it, guys. That's the I'm out of paper. That's the news for this week. And now it's the weekend, so go celebrate. My kids are off school because it's so cold here in Ohio. How cold is it? It's so cold, I saw a polar bear in the refrigerator trying to keep warm. So yeah, and in the words of the incomparable Murray Saul, that means we gotta get down, damn it. True Crime This Week is a Fearful Symmetry production. Photo and artwork are licensed through Shutterstock. If you like the cut of my jib, I have another podcast you might enjoy called The Philosophy of Crime. in which I attempt to solve the big questions behind our true crime obsession by looking to philosophy for answers. Thank you for listening. I'll see you next week. Sit, Brownie, sit. Good dog.